Hello everybody, Storyboard Ed here, and I am doing a video that I'm shooting in a way I do similar to my podcast, meaning I'm using a recorder and my microphone for this one, and yeah, in that way it's similar to my podcast. Um, this video is about the Scream series. This is a Scream series summary from the first movie to the most recent, as I'm recording in 2022, the Scream 5, entitled Scream. Titled Scream. A little burp there. So, more recently, I started watching the Scream series. Probably when I was in high school. Certain people saw it a long time ago and are more, they know the story, more than I do. But for me, I kind of got into it late, like 2014, 2015. I saw it on Blu-ray and then got into the series from there. And I really think the series is really good. So I'd like to start from the first movie. The first movie, there's a whole question of whodunit. It's a whodunit movie. And there's a character named Sydney, she's this young teenage girl who she's got a boyfriend named Billy, and part of the friend group is Stu, and her best friend is I forgot what her name is. She's a blonde girl, best friend in the world, and there's Randy, who's another friend of hers. Randy really likes Sydney, but he doesn't really stand a chance with Sydney. Super nerdy dude. The first movie also has Gail, who's a news reporter, and she believes that a guy named Cotton Weir is innocent, who is framed for Sydney's mom's murder. She believes that, and also there's Dewey. He's part of the police, part of the sheriff's office. I believe it's part of the sheriff's office. Well, he's part of law enforcement. Let's put it that way. And Dewey is he's a nice dude. He's a pretty funny dude, though. He gets a lot of funny lines in the first movie. Kind of goofy. One thing I really liked about the first movie story is you question throughout the movie, who did it, who's the killer, and then you find out it's not one person, it's two people. It ended up being Sydney's boyfriend, Billy, and his friend, Stu Macher. Those two planned the whole thing, basically. First movie, that's how it comes out. And I really think that their characters were enjoyable to watch. And I had a feeling Billy did it throughout the whole movie. I mean, he just gives those vibes. But Stu was just out of nowhere, it felt like. It was just like, wait, what? Stu's a part of this. What? I think that's what really threw me for the biggest loop there. And in the movie, Sydney's friend dies, the blonde woman, and classmates die in the film. And she has to kill Billy off. And she I believe injures Stu. I think it's when I get into this, I don't want to say Stu's killed off, because one thing that happened in the movie there is the fact that a TV gets dropped on Stu's head, so he's electrocuted and zapped. He's and out of it, right? but he doesn't get the definitive death in that way, I don't think. Because like what happens with Billy is like he's taken down by Sydney after trying to kill her. But she shoots him in the head. So it's definitively he's definitively dead. Like Billy is dead. Billy Loomis, he's killed off. But Stu, I don't think it's as clear, in my opinion. And I'll get into that as I go throughout the series here, and how I think Stu could have been a bigger part of it. Now, Wes Craven himself, I've heard in the documentary that they made that was part of the Scream box set. It's called, I think, Still Screaming or something like that, where they talked about how they wanted Matthew Lillard, the guy who plays Stu, to continue that role in the second or the third movie, but it just never happened. So I still think there's room for Stu, but I'll get into how I think he could work into Scream 6 after I go through the next one's parts. So now we're talking about Scream 2. The remaining survivors are Gail and Dewey, as well as Sydney and Randy. Those are the main four that are left after the events of the first film. And I like the story where it went. A lot of people kind of talk about the tropes of horror movies. You know, they get more into the tropes of it. Like in the first movie, Randy gave a great speech about how there are rules to surviving a horror movie. In the second one, it's more of like a debate among students and everybody. Like, hey, like let's get into the rules. And then reference movies within that. And there's a lot more of a discussion on it. And Sydney is still dealing with the same problem as the first movie. And she has a love interest in this movie, played by the guy who was in a kid in that Stand By Me movie, as well as in a lot of other programs. And he did a great job as playing Sydney's boyfriend. And I actually question if he was a killer at certain parts because, there's a scene where he chased the killer and then, he only got caught. She also has a black friend she's a good part of the story and helps Sydney a lot in the story. But she doesn't last too long, the story either, unfortunately. And neither does her boyfriend, the new people that were introduced. I think those were the two that just didn't last in the second movie. Sarah Michelle Gellar was in this one. That's her name, Sarah Michelle Gellar. She was in Know What You Did Last Summer movie. She was Buffy, the Vampire Slayer. She was in this movie, only to be a character who gets killed off pretty shortly after her introduction. I didn't mention how in the first movie, Drew Barrymore was in it, but just to be a killed off character. That's an important thing to mention in the first movie. I like to mention that just for a second. Side fact. But when we get into the second movie, there's some interesting characters here. With the second movie, Randy doesn't last very long. And it's unfortunate because he was a solid original character in the series. And I still think the movies are trying to deal with the fact that they kind of killed off a character sooner than he probably should have been killed off. Randy kind of ignores his own logic that he states in a horror movie and literally steps into his death. There's a van and he walks towards it, trying to find the killer and confront the killer, which seems like the opposite of what Randy would want to do. Seems like he'd want to keep the killer on the line, but not try to leave the group in any way. But he does the exact opposite of anything he preached and gets killed off. And it's just kind of like, kind of made me go, because I really think Randy could have lasted a bit longer in the series. But he does have a cameo in the third movie and is referenced throughout the fourth and the fifth movie. So, yeah, that was an unfortunate aspect about the second film of the Scream franchise. Is the axing off of Randy, Sidney's friend there. Gail and Stewie nearly escaped death in this movie. And so it's, at this point, there's just Sidney, Gail, and Stewie left. No, it's not Stewie, it's Dewey. I don't want to keep saying Stewie. It's Dewey. And those are the main three that last throughout most of the films. Between the second movie and the fifth movie, those are the three main characters that managed to stay. During second, third, and fourth movie. That's the main setup there. So those are the three survivors from the original movie. And one thing I really thought that was interesting about the second movie is the twist at the very end. They go with the same aspect of it being two killers, which it's all right. But I really like the fact that it turns out that it's Billy Loomis's mother looking for revenge. I thought that was an interesting aspect of the story. And I thought that her having a goon to help her was an interesting aspect of the story. And I thought, like, it was an enjoyable movie. I thought the second film was enjoyable. Now we're on to the third movie of the franchise. This one is very... Best way to describe it is one of those films that you see and you go, oh, this is a movie within a movie kind of movie. And I wasn't against it, but it was really meta. It was like... I think it's the most meta that the series has been. I think really it is. Like, this movie was about the Scream movies being made into a movie in that universe and it being called Stab. Gail Weathers wrote the story and they'd made apparently a bunch of movies by the time the third movie came along. And the story has just gotten far off what originally happened. It just kind of became their own thing by the time the third movie came along. That the Stab movies aren't following the same timeline as the Scream movies are. They're doing their own thing past a certain point. The first movie of the Stab franchise, I'm thinking, is really focused on what happened in, like, the first Scream, but the rest of them kind of gradually go their own direction. I think it's probably shortly after the first or second movie in the Stab franchise, it just goes a whole different direction. And as far as I'm aware, the Stab movies aren't an actual real movie series. Just so you know, if you try to look that up as a movie series, it's nothing. But I really thought the meta-ness was interesting to see. I really like the movie within a movie aspect. As a movie nerd, I kind of think that's neat. I really liked seeing people pretend to be other people that you already seen a series like there's a guy pretending to be Dewey, as you'd see Dewey talking to him. Same with Gale. And the killer ended up being one person. I think this is the one time so far in the franchise where it was just one killer. There wasn't two killers. One killer. It was Sidney's brother, half brother, and he was very, very obsessed with Sidney and getting revenge. And apparently he might have had a part in bringing Billy and Stu into the murder spree. Well, I'm going to rephrase that. He says that he had a part in convincing Billy Loomis to enact the events in the first Scream movie. So I guess he somehow had a part in that. So that was interesting. And then finding out that Sidney's mother was an actress. That was an interesting thing to find out. Also, Cotton Weary's character. He's briefly shown in the first and the second films. But he has I believe a bigger... No, it was the second film. Second film... Is that right? Is it first or second? No, it's the second film. Second film, Cotton Weary has a bigger part, and he helps save the day. That's what happened in the second movie. Cotton Weary had a bigger part, and he ended up helping Sidney, saving the day. In the third one, he gets killed off in the opening. Cotton Weary gets killed off in the opening of the third movie. So he had a decent part in the trilogy. I really think that trying to think about now we get to characters get killed off in the Scream movie, third Scream movie. I gotta get better at telling the story. Shit. I'm trying to think of the third movie. Yeah, third movie's only it's her brother that she goes up against, and she kills him off. And he's just deranged. He's a nut job. And that's how she gets her revenge. Killing him off. The fourth movie is really about a wannabe Sidney who's a relative, and she really just wants to be the next Sidney. So she stages the events in the fourth movie to happen, and her to look like a victim, only for her to reveal her true intentions to everybody and get killed off. And she gets what she deserves. But Gale, Dewey, and Sidney survive in the fourth movie, and I believe also one of the characters that was introduced, the blonde woman, young blonde lady, is part of the story. I'm showing pictures up here. It's just so you know what I'm talking about, because it shows in the fifth movie that she'd been one of the survivors off of that event. Now we get to the fifth movie, which is the most recent. And I'm going to try to summarize it as quickly as I can because I'm running out of battery. Basically, in the fifth movie, we've got Dewey, Sidney, Gale, and a new cast of characters. And there's this new girl that's, I think, kind of introduced as the next kind of Sidney, literally. And she basically is connected to Billy Loomis because she's the daughter of Billy Loomis, and people expect her to be not good, but she does end up being a hero of the story in her own right, and she has issues with seeing her father everywhere she goes, and just dealing with the fact that she's the daughter of a killer. So that's a fudged up aspect of the story. But when she sees him in the mirror and stuff. I by the end of the movie, you're left kind of emphasizing with her deciding to do something that Billy Loomis would do, because she's being screwed over. Her boyfriend ends up being the killer, and who he's masterminding it with, who's his actual secret love interest, which is really fudged up aspect of the story. And unfortunately, one of the main survivors from the original Scream movie, Dewey, is killed off. And Dewey dodged a lot of death scenes in like the first through fourth movie. Like there's so many times where I just thought he was killed off, but he'd, be fine and just be able to go. And I feel like this fifth movie is trying to fix the issue of Randy, where they killed off a character that's very original, very shortly into the series. And this time, his relatives, they're very similar to him. These two characters, they're Randy's, I believe, cousins. And like his sister's children. That's the way of phrasing it. They are the main aspect of the story, and they survive. They both survive. They both give the thumbs up and survive. And I think in the sixth movie, they'll have a big part to do in that, and Sydney might have a small part. In this movie, she didn't have that much of a big part because I think they're kind of waning her out. I think they're waning out a lot of the characters in this because I think they want to try to reinvent the series. The fifth movie kind of, when I saw it in theaters, it kind of left me going, So it was interesting. They did a good job with it. Very good job. I get thinking about what they might want to do with the sixth movie. And I think there's an opportunity to put Stu in there, in the sixth movie, and kind of bring him back, do something with his character. Because Stu is a guy that audiences feel like he's not been necessarily killed off. And I feel like I have an idea of where they could take it. Like, I'm just going to run through a brief concept here. Take it for what you will. Like maybe they open with like the end of the first movie, the first original Scream. And it's the ending time, and they go to carry out Stu's body, and Stu's body's not there. They already put Billy in a bag and stuff like that. But when they go and look for Stu's not there. And then we cut to the main story and how there's a new killer, and I don't know. You'd always have the twist of Stu not being the killer, but being alive. That could be part of the story too. But yeah, that's just my main idea, is to somehow work him into the story. Whether or not you use him as a killer or they use him as some guy who's changed. I don't know. I don't know how they go about that. But yeah, I really like the Scream franchise, and I don't think that any of the movies have ever really hit a dull point, in my opinion. I like the first movie. I thought the second movie was solid. The third movie was an enjoyable meta commentary on the series, and the fourth movie was trying to touch on that generation, and it did a good job. I felt it did good, and the fifth movie was really good, and there's room for a sixth, and I really hope that the sixth one will be enjoyable to see. And that really ends my video with the Scream franchise, me trying to summarize the Scream franchise. It's going to probably be heavily edited because I made some fudge ups, so I'm trying to probably correct it in editing some stuff that I realized as I'm talking about that movie and that movie. I got sorted out. But yeah, that's basically my summary of the Scream franchise. And I'm hoping that they can get a lot more installments out of that franchise because I really did like Ghostface as a character. And I like how it can just be anybody. It's not like it's Freddy Krueger who just keeps coming back. Like, there are consequences to whoever wears the Ghostface mask. Like, they're going to get killed off. Because they're human. They're not like Mike Myers or Jason or Freddy Krueger that, yeah, you can kill them off, but they're always back. They're always back the next installment. So, yeah. The Scream franchise is very enjoyable. So, yeah. That ends the video. Feel free to subscribe. And have a great day, everybody.